Till that when Marie Curie ran out of radium for her research in 1921, a women's magazine led a crowdfunding campaign and raised $100,000 to buy her some more. Edit, *led, not lead. Pun unintended. From an article in the Smithsonian Mag in 2017, which I came across via Jason Kott's blog. Curie, who lived in France for much of her life, had done an interview with an American reporter named Marie Meloni the year before. In that interview, she told Meloni that she didn't have any radium to continue her research and that she couldn't afford any, writes Anne Lewicki in the journal Radiology. After a fundraising campaign led by American women, Curie traveled to the United States to be presented with 1 gram of radium by President Warren Harding on May 20, 1921. Meloni, then the editor of a women's magazine called The Delineator, started the Marie Curie Radium Fund soon after her return to the United States. The price of 1 gram of radium in 1921 was $100,000, Lewicki writes. That's about $1.3 million today. Although the sum was astronomical, Lewicki writes, the Radium Fund was able to raise it in less than a year. Numerous prominent women academics rallied around the cause. In fact, writes Suzanne Gould for the American Association of University Women, the Marie Curie Radium Fund was so successful that it raised an additional $56,413.54. Curie never touched that money, which was eventually put in a trust for her daughter, who was continuing her research. The funds eventually became a fellowship for French or American women in science. How much would 1 gram of radium be today? By 1921 the price of radium was so high, $100,000 per gram, that Curie could no longer afford to purchase it for her research at the Institut du Radium in Paris. Fortunately, Mrs. Marie Mattingly Meloni, an American editor, heard about the situation and raised the necessary funds to buy 1 gram of pure radium, which was presented to Curie during a visit to the USA cautiously housed in a lead-lined mahogany box, as by then some suspected it to have harmful effects, even in small doses that had been deemed safe. But many still used radium inadvertently due to ignorance. These include the radium girls who used radium to paint watch dials as radioluminescent coating, and were told to put the tip of the paintbrush between their lips to sharpen it. The small amount of radium that they ingested each time caused severe anemia, tooth loss, jaw decay, bone cancer, and ultimately death. Although their deteriorating health was disregarded for far too long, the Radium Girls, as they became known, brought a lawsuit against the dial manufacturers in 1927 and settled out of court. Eventually radium's popularity declined. The total worldwide supply of radium amounted to about 2.3 kilograms in 1954. Radium's current annual production by extraction of spent nuclear fuel rods is less than 100 grams. Element 88 has become a focus in environmental monitoring, in which its contamination levels in soil are quantified and its radiation levels in watercourses assessed. More recently discovered radioisotopes, such as cobalt-60 and cesium-137, are replacing radium in even these limited uses because several of these isotopes are more powerful emitters, safer to handle, and available in more concentrated form. In 2017, 1 milligram of 226Ra was being traded for about €15,000 for medical purposes. Curie never touched that money, which was eventually put in a trust for her daughter, who was continuing her research. The funds eventually became a fellowship for French or American women in science. But not Polish women like Marie Curie actually was. Today, the Radium Fund has raised $56,413.54. This put a real glow on Marie Curie's face. The price can be explained by how rare it is. If I remember correctly, you can find a bit of it in some types of uranium ores in ridiculously small quantities, 1/3 million atoms, and the first gram Curie isolated took a lot of processing she had to do on her own, over a ton I think. And to isolate it, it was all about dissolving the components one by one until she could have radium left alone in some solution. She gave her name to the first unit of radioactivity, the Curie, aka the activity of 1 gram of pure radium, 3.7 * 1010 decays per second, or 1 Ci equals 3.7 * 1010 BQ. Nice summary. Marie Curie and her husband performed the first isolation of a few milligrams of radium chloride from several tons of pitchblende ore. During this they also discovered the even more unpleasant polonium, named after her native country. The process took 5 years. It was an absolute masterclass in chemistry, because, as you say, the unknown elements had to separated from chemically very similar elements using repeated crystallizations and dissolutions, all the time increasing the concentration of the elements and therefore their radioactive emissions. By discovering radium, the Curies greatly advanced the theory of radioactivity, a term invented by Marie Curie. For this reason, they and Henri Becquerel were awarded the 1903 Nobel Prize in Physics. After Pierre's death in a road accident, Marie Curie herself would go on to win the 1911 Nobel Prize in Chemistry for the isolation of polonium and radium. There are only 4 people who have won 2 Nobel Prizes and she is the only woman to have done so. Marie Curie lived just long enough to see her daughter, Irina Joliot-Curie, discover artificial radioactivity. Irina and her husband Frederick were in turn awarded the 1935 Nobel Prize in Chemistry, although Marie Curie died before this could happen. The Joliot-Curies in turn had 2 children who went on to prestigious scientific careers including in nuclear physics. Quite a family. I read the biography of her that was written by her daughter, and it includes sections about the backbreaking work involved in the extraction process and how very, very poor she was at one point, with not enough to eat. It's a very interesting book. Edit. It's called Madame Curie, a biography, by Eve Curie. It doesn't include the part about her affair with a married man after Pierre's death. Isn't 1 Curie equals 3.7 × 1010 BQ? Ores are only 1 letter away from Oreos. Sure, but when I try to raise money for radioactive materials I'm suddenly a person of interest and can't fly internationally. You can still buy guns, though. Did you try getting it from the Libyans? Rad. Upvoted. Anyone else remember when it was just called fundraising? I view fundraising as asking rich people for money, and crowdfunding at asking a bunch of normal people for a bit of money. I have no justification for this view. It still is though, isn't it? I always thought the new terms were more like subgenres. Crowdfunding vs funding. I've noticed a shift in modern language to add superfluous adjectives. I think it comes from search engine algorithms favoring long articles. Everyone is being forced to pad their word count to get noticed. Personal pet peeve, the phrase design language instead of the word design. Adding the language adjective does nothing to clarify the meaning in any use. For 100 years, literature used the word design to mean how parts of an object fit together into a coherent whole. Then in the past 10 years bloggers started using the phrase design language to mean the exact same thing. It's almost as though languages evolve. There's a really good movie on Amazon right now called Radioactive that tells this woman's story. We just watched it today and it was fantastic. Highly recommend. Isn't this the chemical that went on to cause serious health problems throughout countries because they thought it could kill cancer and such? Yeah, you could buy radium-infused water as a cure for everything for a while. Radium therapy was one of the first treatments against cancer, so Curie had given much of her supply to hospitals around the world so they could successfully treat tumors. It was primitive compared to modern radiotherapy, but it did work. It could kill cancer and such. Metastasized cancers require something different, like chemotherapy, but tumors that were all still in one place and hard to operate on were prime targets. One of the first uses of radium once the Curies managed to isolate it was taking nanograms of the stuff, putting it on the top of a needle, and lancing a tumor with it. Worked pretty well, actually. I mean, it does kill cancer. A lot of things kill cancer. The problem is finding something that doesn't also kill the healthy cells around it. Killed her too because she carried it around everywhere she went. Strictly speaking, it's an element. It was considered to be harmless enough that workers handling it used less than 0 precautions and put it in their mouths. 100,000 in today's money, or 100,000 in 1921 dollars. $100,000 in 1920s dollars, or about $1.3 million in today's dollars. 1921 dollars. Sklodowska. GoFundMe. I swear there was twice as much here when I left the house 1,023,000 seconds ago. Asterisk lead. Lead, pronounced lead, is a metal. Lead is the past tense of lead, pronounced lead. I often make this mistake, even though I know the right usage. Thanks for the reminder. The past tense of lead, is also spelled lead, not lead. A women's magazine lead a crowdfunding campaign. If they had crowdfunded a lead campaign instead, she might still be here. Doubt it. She was born in 1867, she was 66 when she died in 1934, she'd be 150 years old if she were alive right now. In our time, people were crowdfunding to make Kylie Jenner a billionaire. How far have we come? Radium Girls is a great book for anyone interested in radium and / or women. I hear they were hot, still are in fact. Successfully produced radium as a pure metal, which proved the new element's existence beyond a doubt. #hats off to the lady #. Also, Curie's notebooks are still so radioactive that they can't be studied without special protective gear. I mean, they can. You'll just die sooner. Radioactivity is in the air for you and me. Radioactivity. Discovered by Madame Curie. Radioactivity. Tune into the melody. Radioactivity is in the air for you and me. Becquerel discovered it though. But when I make a Kickstarter to buy uranium, I'm a terrorist. And yet Doc Brown had to con terrorists to continue his research, inadvertently hastening her death from radiation poisoning. Oops. Asterisk Marie Curie Sklodowska. For all Polish people, asterisk Marie Sklodowska Curie. Although she lived in France for her, roughly, half-life, she was still proud of her homeland Poland. She used both surnames and even called the first element she discovered polonium after her homeland. Half-life, well, that's a nice choice of words. Nowadays people have to crowdfund for chemotherapy, so the product hasn't changed all that much. Think that only holds true in some nations though. According to inflation calculator, that's $1.4 million in today's money. Curie, hook me up with a gram, Harding. We raised more than enough money. How much for an 8-ball? Talk about an expensive interest. And I thought my wife was high maintenance. Nobody ever buys me radium. They don't sing you love songs. And thus they unwittingly killed her. Go women. The movie Radioactive on Amazon is a pretty good drama about Marie Curie's life. It does get a little artsy at points. I just watched the Prime movie about her. Really good. Cringy because they were just hanging out with the radium. Here's my little jar of radium I have in my bed with me. Great movie. You have to wear protective clothing if you want to read her research notes. Too radioactive. Both she and her husband were buried in lead-lined coffins, since both were dangerously radioactive. Haha, lead. Asterisk lead not lead. That just sounds like assisted suicide with more steps. And later Russia helped her with polonium. Cool, what's her GoFundMe? Shit, why can't we do that now? How come Teen Vogue has never offered me $100,000 to buy uranium? Thus sealing her fate, to die of radiation poisoning. Crowdfunding kills. I like the accidental pun. Considering she died due to radiation, it might also be considered the first crowdfunded murder by poisoning. Girls' Night. At first I read it as Marie Curie and thought good for her. Today I learned radium costs 100 to 150k per gram. So accessory to murder? Edit/S. To make further researches that help to treat today's cancers and avoid thousands of deaths during WW2. So just fuck you. So this how the Back to the Future reboot starts. Instead of radioactive material from the Libyans, Doc Brown starts a GoFundMe page and the neckbeards attack him when Marty has to flee. We got more death rocks for you. Yeah, and she also died from poisoning herself. Her notebooks are so radioactive, they are stored in special lead-lined boxes. So those bitches killed her. Yeah, they did her a solid. Died in 1934 of aplastic anemia from exposure to radiation. I'm surprised the patriarchy allowed the women to have such influence in the sciences. Well, she had a modern and helpful husband. At first, the French Academy of Sciences only put Pierre Curie and Henri Becquerel for the 1903 Nobel. Pierre asked for her wife to be added for all the work she had put in. So what you're saying is, feminism killed Curie. That's the most expensive assisted suicide I've ever seen. Crowdfunded murder by ignorance. How did she die? Oh yeah, never mind. Didn't end well. Wonder if they still post stuff out to all the donors asking for more money. I raised money for them 4 years ago and constantly get harassed to send them more. Imagine someone going about needing more radium for research today. Don't get what's not to get about this joke, but nuclear material of any sort is kind of hard to get. I've seen some radium fresh drink ads some times ago. You mean Aunt Martha didn't travel to give her some to complete the loop? I have same problem, but my brothers and we acquire more and the planet still is on. Guess they bought her too much. It was also rumored that she had a secret love affair with Mr. Burns and their breakup left him so heartbroken that he started the plant in Springfield to find closure. Dearest Irene, as I'd previously forecasted, the 19th Amendment shall prove utterly disastrous. Stop that, and cellophane, I tell you stop. Won't you reconsider your position before you and your suffragette friends ruin everything? Stop. P.S. I miss our fun times at the Negro Jazz Club. Stop. Yours forever, Cecil. And she already had Amazon Prime, so free 2-day delivery. When even your own team wants you dead. And thereby helped kill her. Good job. How is that possible during patriarchy? WTH. Thanks for watching. If you could like, subscribe and comment best Reddit stories for more Reddit videos.